Hello，大家，谢谢 Joe，非常kind welcome. Hello everyone, I am Hector. So I will be giving a short presentation on the current e-commerce trends that we are seeing in the fresh category, and also what we're seeing in terms of in the meat categories as well.
大家好，我是 Hector。那我今天呢会为大家介绍一下在电商方面，我们这些生鲜食品以及肉类食品的发展的一个趋势。
Okay, so the first few slides, I'm going to talk about the macro situation. So firstly, the Chinese consumer food spend each year is close to 7 trillion RMB. So for us, the e-commerce opportunity is very significant.
这开始的几张幻灯片呢，我会为大家介绍一下整个的大环境的一个情况。中国城镇居民每年的食品支出呢近7万亿元，所以对于生鲜电商市场的空间来说呢是非常巨大的。
In terms of for the food and the fresh, we continue to see very strong e-commerce growth trends. So for the first half year, where growth is close to 40%, and this is well ahead of other e-commerce industries.
生鲜食品的消费呢，线上化的势头是非常强劲的。就2020年上半年可以看见，网上食品的消费同比增长了近40%，远超电商行业的整体增速。
For the first half of the year, over a quarter of the Chinese market has purchased online. However, compared to the total category, only 5% of the Chinese market has bought fresh categories online. So that also means that for us, we have a lot of opportunity and a lot of work to do ahead of us to continue to grow the share of wallet and the e-commerce penetration for the fresh category.
2020年上半年，超过25%的消品呢是通过电商平台完成购买的，但是与之相比的线上的生鲜消费比例呢却不足5%，这也是从另一个侧面显示了市场的潜力呢是非常巨大的。但是我们呢也是要去努力开发这样的一个市场，才能够占到更大的这样一个市场份额。
And over the many years of e-commerce, we've seen a lot of different business models that we have, not only Alibaba, but the total e-commerce system has tried and also has invested itself in. Starting in 2016 with many of the APPs that are direct APPs only selling food and fresh, and then into different O2O businesses in later 2016, including, for example, Jingdong Daojia, JD, the JD's so O2O business model, and then on to recently the Meituan and many other sort of neighborhood delivery models.
这是我们这样的一个很多的这些生鲜电商的发展历程，可以看到呢，当然除了阿里巴巴之外，还有很多这个整个的电商的这个体系呢，都是在生鲜食品的这个平台发展上呢是经历了很多的这个历程的。可以看到，在2016年开始的时候，我们看到有很多的 APP， 他们是主要以贩卖这些生鲜食品为主，然后是慢慢的演到了2016年的后期呢，我们有看到很多的一些 O2O 的这些企业，包括京东、到家等等这样的成立，然后现在呢也是慢慢的有类似美团这样的邻里之间的这样的生鲜平台出现。
So the role for Tmall continues to be a business to consumer model, a business to consumer B2C model. So our model's key advantages is that we can offer an endless supply and breadth of product categories. So compared to the other business models where they're limited by shelf space, store size, store numbers, and perhaps in the range of their warehouse, for e-commerce, because we are a platform, the business to consumer model allows much greater variety of products and SKUs to be made available to the Chinese market and to the total Chinese market. So many of the other models are limited to their particular regions, but B2C is a total Chinese market model.
那作为天猫来说呢，我们扮演的是一个 B to C 的这样的一个角色。那我们与之前提到的这些模式的不同来说呢，是因为我们是一个平台。那平台来说的话呢，我们就能够提供一些无穷无尽的这些东西的品类、品种以及各种不同的这一些产品。与这些其他的模式相比，他们可能会受到他们店铺的大小或者是他们这些货存量的这些影响，从而导致了他们这些产品的限制。但是作为我们的一个大的平台来说，我们面对的是整个中国的市场，然后是可以有提供无穷无尽各种不同的品类以及各种产品。这样来说的话呢，这是我们的优势。
So in terms of some of the numbers that we're seeing for online, close to 70% of the online fresh consumer comes from first tier or some of the newer first tier cities. So this to us is quite interesting. And the next few slides, you'll also see some of the changing consumer demographics.
现在我们来看一下消费者的构成，近70%的生鲜电商用户呢来自一线及新一线城市，这对于我们来说呢也是感觉非常有意思的。在接下来的几页幻灯片当中，我们也将了解一下新的这一些消费者构成的一个人口分布趋势。
So as you may expect, there is a rapid growth of consumers buying online that are from lower tier cities, so second tier and beyond. Both their growth and their participation is increasing rapidly.
大家可能已经预计到了，下沉市场的增速呢也是可以非常大的，也就是说是2线或者以下的这些城市的增速。一线城市生鲜店用户的渗透率呢已经进入了平台期，下沉市场的用户的生鲜消费热情呢是逐步释放的。
So from the perspective of the meat industry, something that's quite particular to the Australian market, which is actually where I'm from originally, is that in the Chinese market, whereas Australian beef is generally positioned as a premium product that is very widely shared and acknowledged in the first tier and the second tier cities, but how can Australian products get into the third tier, fourth tier, fifth tier cities? This is a challenge that we believe that we should work together as an industry group to tackle.
那以肉类这些产品来说的话呢，以澳洲肉类来说，我也是来自澳洲的，所以我这也是比较了解。在中国市场上，澳洲的肉类产品呢是被认为是澳洲的牛肉类产品是认为是比较高端的产品的。这在1线、2线城市呢是已经达成共识，大家都是非常了解的。但如何在中国的3线、4线甚至5线城市去推广澳洲这样一个高端牛肉产品的这样的一个品牌的话呢，也是需要我们与各位进行合作，然后去共同讨论开拓的。
We're seeing also rapid growth from the South American meat markets, in particularly from Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay. And much of the changing commodity prices has also meant that it is putting a lot of pressure on the Australian, the New Zealand products, especially in the lower tier cities where they are much more price sensitive and they are less aware of perhaps the premium positioning of Australian beef.
我们也看到，在这些中国市场当中呢，来自南美的这些牛肉类产品呢，也是在迅速的增长的，包括来自巴西以及乌拉圭等等这些国家。而且商品的价格呢，也是有一个很重要的因素，因为在这些下沉城市当中呢，他们可能对价格的是比较敏感的，而新西兰以及澳洲的产品呢，他们的价格可能相对比较高昂，但是在这些城市呢，又不像在1线、2线城市已经打出了知名度，有这样一个高端产品的这样一个形象，所以呢，这也是我们需要面对的挑战。
The next thing around in terms of the age of the consumers, so we're seeing over 60% of consumers that are buying fresh online are born after the 1980s and the 1990s. And in particularly, they are the young female white collar consumer group. This is quite interesting. Yeah.
看一下消费者的年龄的分布，可以看到有超过60%的生鲜电商的订单呢来自80后及90后的群体，年轻女白领呢是重要的用户群体。
So what this slide doesn't say, but I would like to expand on, is that we are seeing a rapid trend towards consumers looking for products that are more convenient, that are easier to be shared, and they're easier to be used in a single family or a small family unit group. In particularly during the COVID-19 at the beginning of the year, many of the consumers that were used to going out into the restaurants were now instead consuming meat products at home. They are looking for a meat product that can be quickly consumed and that can be quickly and easily prepared at home.
那这张幻灯片上没有提到，但是我想补充的一点呢，那就是我们看到最近呢有这样的一个发展趋势，而且是增长的非常快的，那就是消费者是希望能够有更方便去食用以及烹饪的这样一些肉类的产品。这尤其是在新冠疫情之后呢，这样的一个趋势尤其明显，因为在新冠疫情爆发之后，很多消费者可能之前是去餐厅里面用餐，但是现在的话呢是在家庭里面自己用餐，所以他们是希望能够有一些更容易去烹饪、更容易食用的这样一些肉类的产品。
So following on that point, we probably do expect to have further growth in the ready-to-consume RTC market, in not just in the meat category, but also in other categories as well. This is certainly an e-commerce trend that we expect to spill over perhaps into the other channels as well.
那所以预判来看呢，在未来的话，这些 RTC 的这些品类的产品呢，应该会越来越受欢迎。这不仅是我们电商看到的这样一个趋势，未来呢也会在我们的这些零售企业当中应该有一个同样的反现。
But one important point I wanted to say is that the RTC trend of meat products, it actually started many years ago with the flavored meat products, which were an inferior product. So we're seeing now the market is actually demanding a better product that is not made of an inferior meat. However, it is still nevertheless convenient and quick and easy to use. This product, I believe, right, is the future. However, there's not a lot of ready supply of this currently in the Chinese market. So this is something that we can particularly work towards together.
那有一点呢，我要提到的是，这些 RTC 的这些肉类产品呢，可食的肉类产品，那之前其实是很多年之前，我们市场上就有这一类的产品，是一些调味的肉类加工品。但是这一类产品呢，之前是被定位是相对比较低端的，但是现在市场需求的呢，是一些高端的可食用的这些肉类的加工产品。所以怎么样去补充这样一个市场的这样的一个缺口，也是我们可以与肉类的行业的各位同仁一起合作，然后共同去应对的这样一个挑战。
Next couple of slides, I will share some more numbers and details around the Alibaba economy. It particularly follows up on the growth of the lower tier cities. So 70% of the new active users for us right now is coming from the lower tier cities. This is something that we need to be focused on.
接下来我想跟大家分享一系列的数据，也是来自阿里巴巴经济体的我们所看到的一些数据，有超过70%的这个下沉市场的用户呢，是增量贡献是来自这些下沉市场的。
And something that we talk a lot about in the Chinese market is the content economy, in particularly with the Taobao live streaming. So the Taobao live streaming GMV has been on triple-digit growth for some time now, and in particularly for the meat category, it is something that is very well received by live streaming as well.
另外一点，我们在中国现在非常热议的呢，那就是我们的直播带货的文化了。可以看到，在淘宝直播的上，我们是淘宝直播的话，我们也是有3位数的这样一个增长。尤其在这个直播室里面呢，这些肉类产品的话是非常受消费者欢迎的，增长呢也是非常强劲的。
And a trend as well we've seen is the increased consumption of the import food at home post COVID-19. This is something we talked about earlier.
另外一个趋势呢，那就是在疫情爆发之后呢，对于进口食品的食用也是在增加的，在家庭当中的进口食品的食用。
One thing that Tmall has been working very hard for the last 7 years has been developing the category marketing of import products. So whether it's meat, whether it's seafood, whether it's fruit, and so on. So we're also seeing that consumers are much more aware of the products, much more aware of the country of origin, and much more aware of different brands as well. In particularly, we've also seen more of the slaughterhouse brands and meat brands coming into Tmall and directly opening their own flagship store. For example, the Kilcoy flagship store is one example. They've done quite well in the recent year.
那可以看到，在过去的7年当中呢，天猫呢也是致力于打造这些对于中国消费者更加认可这些进口食品的这些品类，包括我们的海鲜、肉类、水果等等这样不同的产品。那消费者呢也是对于这些产品的来源国、产地等等呢也是有了更进一步的了解。那可以看到，在过去的几年当中呢，也是取得了很丰硕的这样的一些成就，尤其是桂格之前呢也是打造了这样的一个旗舰店，然后也是获得了非常好的成绩。
And this is a slide that talks about some of the growth of our important import categories, such as steak. And of course, we're about to head into the cherries season as well, which is for both Chile and also for Australia and New Zealand.
这一些是看到我们各种不同品类的这样一个增速，包括我们的牛排，然后还有呢就是樱桃，现在马上就要到樱桃季了，包括来自我们的智利、澳洲以及新西兰的樱桃。
And a little bit more information around meat. So this is from a meat point of view. We also continue to see a trend towards premiumization and diversification of the consumption scenario as well. So there continues to be consumers that are prefer a product which is at a lower price level, but we're also seeing a growth of consumers that are expecting a super premium product. And the great thing about business to consumer model, the B2C model, is that we can service the consumer across the wide spectrum of their needs.
这一些呢是2张是关于肉类品类的这样的一个变化以及增长，可以看到呢，也是我们看到它的变化呢是包含了对于高端产品的这样的一个需求的增加，同时呢也包含了消费者对于这些低价产品的这样的一个需求。作为我们一个 B2C 这样模型呢，有一个优势，那就是呢我们可以覆盖整个的消费者群体，包括这些需要寻求超高端产品的这些用户，以及寻求这些低价产品的用户都能够予以覆盖。
And talking more about the young consumers, they're more embracing international cuisine and lifestyle as well. We've talked about this in a couple of the earlier slides. So the Gen Z and the city youth, although their income levels and their spend may not be as high as the young female white-collar worker, but this is really the future of the category for us. So how do we effectively engage with this aged group of consumers? This is something that Alibaba is looking into very closely, because this age group demographic, the way that they consume data, the way that they find out about lifestyle, the way they find out about different meat products will be vastly different from how their predecessors have done. A lot of the way that they interact is through live stream and short videos.
那这一些呢是年轻消费者的这样的一个情况，他们呢更加拥抱西式的生活方式，与我们刚才提到的也是一样。这里的我们2个关注的群体，那就是我们的 Z 世代以及我们的小镇青年了。也可能他们与之前我们提到的女性白领相比的话，他们的收入并没有那么高，他们的可能可支配收入也没有这么多，但是它是我们未来发展的需要关注的这样一个群体。这也是阿里巴巴现在正在关注的，怎么样去了解这一个群体的一个消费习惯，因为与他们之前的这一些年轻人相比的话呢，他们获得资讯以及获得对于产品的了解的途径以及渠道呢，是与之前完全不同的。他们现在更多的可能是依赖于直播以及这些短视频这样的渠道去了解对于这些新的产品的发现。
So this slide is a little bit busy, but I will try to explain it in the simplest way. So there is, besides Tmall, we have an IP called Mr. Fresh, 苗先生. So 苗先生, the positioning is marketing IP specifically to promote import food and fresh products. So it is, we've opened a store called the Mr. Fresh Flagship Store. It is also a marketing IP that we use for all of our marketing activity to do with import products.
那除了天猫之外呢，天猫还有一个品牌，那就是我们的天猫喵先生，它是一个国际品牌和海外原产地运营的一个主阵地。那我们也是开了一个天猫喵先生的旗舰店，通过这个旗舰店来推广我们这些进口的这些食品。
So besides Mr. Fresh being a flagship store, it is also a contents page and it is also a sales channel. So for the different meat products of Australia, they can be selling through the Mr. Fresh flagship store. They can also be selling through other flagship stores, or they can open their own flagship store. This is all fine, and we have a contents page and a sales channel to help promote these products. You can see that on this page that we are promoting, for example, cherries. We're promoting the Spanish prawn. We're promoting the Russian king crab and the New Zealand rocket apple, and so on.
那除了是我们有一个旗舰店之外呢，喵先生还有一个销售一个渠道，以及我们的这些国家一个传递生活品质消费者的一个主阵地。可以看到呢，我们可以通过我们的这个旗舰店去进行销售，也可以通过其他的这些各种旗舰店去销售我们的产品。在这个页面上就可以看到，我们推荐了很多不同的这些产品，包括来自有樱桃，然后来自西班牙的这一些产品，还有来自俄罗斯的这一些螃蟹等等，一系列的产品都能够在上面进行一个推广。
And I have worked out this slide, which breaks out the two different main ways for customers that can work with Tmall. So the first way is to open your own flagship store. So the Chinese, you may need to find a local Chinese partner or have a Chinese entity company to open this store. The main advantage is that all of the consumer data, all of that information, it is controlled by you. And of course, you have full control over the retail price of the product. However, you do need to have an in-country team, and you do need to have some capital investment. So that's the first model.
那这张图上呢，我是把能够与天猫合作的两种方式呢进行了这样一个列举，能够让大家了解它们之间的不同。第一种方式呢，那就是自己开一个旗舰店，做一个自营店。可能这个合作选项的话呢，就需要找一个中方的合作方，让他们来帮你开一个这样一个旗舰店。那这种模式的一个好处呢，那就在于你可以有一个丰富的数据收集，可实现这一个深入的消费者的见解和分析。同时呢，你也可以完全掌控这个零售价、建议售价以及更高的这样的一个你的利润。但是另一方面呢，这样的一个做法呢，也需要在中国有一个自己的团队，同时呢，也要更有前期的这样的一个资金的投入。
And the second model, which is a lighter capital investment model, is to sell through an existing Tmall store. So just like you would negotiate a contract with Walmart or with Carrefour, you could negotiate a sales contract with one of the 30,000 Tmall stores that have opened. You can work with the Mr. Fresh flagship store. The MLA also has an MLA's flagship store, or you could work with many of the other stores that are currently on the platform through a vendor-supplier relationship.
那第二种方式呢，就是可以在现有的这些店铺当中呢进行售卖自己的产品，这就与之前的这些模式呢就很类似。比如说你有沃尔玛或者家乐福去商讨这样的一个销售协议等等，都是类似的。现在呢，在我们的平台上共有3万多家不同的店铺呢，可以去进行选择。我们的肉协以及我们的喵先生旗舰店，或者是我们的其他的这些旗舰店呢，都是一个非常好的这样一个选项。
Yes. So depending on where you are in terms of your brand development in China, either Model A or Model B may be more suitable. For the more mature brands that already have in China teams and in China office, it may be more suitable to go and open your own flagship store. For many of the brands that are mainly still based in Australia with perhaps only 1 or 2 sales representatives in China, I would recommend you to go via option B, which is sell through an existing Tmall store.
那根据各个品牌不同的情况呢，可以自行选择 A 的模型或者 B 的模型。对于那些比较成熟的品牌，你们已经在中国建立起了自己的团队的话呢，那我会建议可以选择 A 的模型，直接开自己的这个自营店。那这样的话呢，可能是更适合的。对于一些其他的小品牌，可能是现在呢只在中国只有1到2个销售人员是这些澳洲品牌的话呢，我会建议他们选择模型 B， 那可以通过现有的这些店铺贩售他们的商品。
And the final few slides, I'm just going to share a case study that we've recently done with New Zealand during Double 11. This is a picture that first of all just shows what a flagship store may look like. This is a flagship store of New Zealand.
那接下来呢，我想跟大家分享一个最近的案例，是我们在双11期间与新西兰合作的这样一个案例。这张幻灯片大家现在看到的呢，那就是如果是要开旗舰店的话呢，这就是这样的一个情况。
So in Double 11, we worked with several New Zealand brands and also with the New Zealand government to promote New Zealand food products on Timor. So during the entire campaign, we were able to deliver over 4.5 billion views of the campaign online. We were also able to sell significant amount of New Zealand food and fresh products during this time. We also had a New Zealand country store that actually ranked the top 10 of all Timor stores in terms of selling New Zealand food and fresh products.
所以呢，这个案例呢，是我们之前在双11期间与一些新西兰的品牌以及新西兰政府合作的这样的一个成果，在天猫上面呢推广新西兰的这一系列的产品。那在这个双11期间呢，我们是共完成了在有45亿的线上的这样的一个观看率，同时呢，在此期间呢，也是卖出了大量的来自新西兰的这些生鲜的食品。此外呢，新西兰的国家馆旗舰店呢，也是在天猫排名前10的这样的一个旗舰店，效果非常的显著。
So an important takeaway from my presentation is that Timor, it is not just a sales channel for you to sell your product. We can be your marketing partner and your marketing I guess advisor in this role to really help introduce a new brand and also build up some new consumer trends. That's for us a very important role rather than simply helping you to sell your products.
所以呢，我的这个演讲想要大家要知道或者是知晓的一个最重要的一点呢，就是天猫呢不仅是一个销售的渠道，我们也可以作为您的品牌、您的产品在中国的一个推广的合作伙伴，或者是一个顾问的这样的一个角色。因为呢，我们可以把你的这个品牌呢帮助你在中国进行推广，介绍给我们的中国的消费者，更是能够让你了解中国消费者的这样一些消费习惯等等，能够帮助您的品牌更好的进入中国市场。
So we can see on this slide, during Double 11, we hosted Mr. Fresh live stream, which had over 1.5 million views. And we had many different countries included in this live stream, including for New Zealand. And we see the New Zealand Trade Council teaching Chinese consumers how to open and peel a scampi.
这可以看到是在我们的双11期间呢举行的这样一个新西兰产品的这样一个直播，当时呢共有155.86万的这样的一个观看率。现在看的这个呢就是新西兰的这个贸易专员教大家怎么样剥这个小龙虾。
And besides live stream, we also had significant resources within Timor to help promote the New Zealand product. For example, in the Mr. Fresh banner page, we built a specific country page to promote the different products of New Zealand. We also had a National Treasure Series promotional calendar, which promoted again New Zealand lamb, and we also had many of the homepage and banner page. So these are all the different type of resources that we can bring to bear to help promote a particular product or a particular product from a particular country.
可以看到现在呢，我们在喵先生的这个平台里面呢，有一系列的各种不同的资源能够为您提供来推广产品，包括以这个新西兰为例的话呢，我们有这样的一个首页，然后推广他们的这样的一些产品，然后还有一些呢，他们是这个国家宝藏的一个推广，比如说新西兰的羊肉等等，还有包括我们的这个天猫的食品的这样的一个主页等等的，都会进行一个推广。所以呢，在我们的整个平台上呢，有一系列的这一些资源都能够去进行利用。
And besides what we can do inside Timor, we also work with many of the leading KOLs, and we work with the many leading digital and media channels as well to help promote our key promotional messages and our campaign messages. So you can see some of the key visuals that we've prepared, and also we were able to promote via the KOLs to over 15 million fans to receive information about the different New Zealand products, including apples, including lamb, including seafood.
所以除了在 T 猫的这些资源之外呢，我们也会与其他的这一些合作方合作，包括我们的 KOL 以及我们的媒体进行合作。所以可以看到在，现在这个幻灯片上展示呢，就是当时我们做的这一系列的这个推广的一些广告。然后呢，我们也是通过与30个 KOL 合作，然后他们覆盖的是超过1500万的粉丝，去推广这些新西兰的食品，包括我们的苹果、羊肉海鲜等等。
So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a great honor to speak to you, and we really look forward to hoping to work with you together in 2021. Thank you, everyone.
我的演讲就到这里结束了，非常感谢大家给我这个机会与大家分享我们的一些经验，也期待呢在2021年的时候呢能够与各位开展进一步的合作，谢谢。